My dad didn't always talk about this a lot. He was a devoted pilot. He wanted to fly, and he was a hellraiser and an adventurer, because I said he flew for the RAF before America went in the war. Then he flew for us. And then when the Palma came over, and his story was the same as one of those guys said, they got the list of pilots discharged from the American Air Force and called the guys with Jewish names. And Rubenfeld's pretty Jewish, so he got called, and he went. I think he wanted to help Israel too. But my dad was not religious at all. He was raised Orthodox. I've seen the little shul in Peekskill that they used to go to. The one, it's a one small, I don't know, I'm sure you have a bigger synagogue now, but I saw the little one once we went there to see somebody in the family. Um, and I always thought my dad lost his faith because of the war. I'm not sure it was that. My brother said it was actually because when his dad died when he was very young. So he was not, but some of the other guys were saying that too. They weren't religious Jews, but I think all the discrimination, my dad was big on justice and civil rights and being fair. And I think that that did matter to him to go over and to try to do something about that. It fit right within right what he does. And, it's affected me. I'm a civil rights lawyer. I do family law, but I also do civil rights. So I have a very strong sense of justice. And I think it's attributable a lot to my dad.
Which is brilliant. It was fascinating when they had the initial things, because even in Poughkeepsie, I grew up knowing, oh, the Poughkeepsie Tennis Club that didn't allow Jews. Poughkeepsie itself had that same no Jews allowed. And obviously things have changed, but I could see for many how that was, they said during the Holocaust, no one stood up. And so now there was an opportunity to stand up and to do something. Would you say that, you mentioned his fight for justice, and that seems to be ingrained in you. Were there other ways that it maybe impacted on how he was as a father, or you're a daughter, maybe he's just like, I know about, as we said, I was at Indiana Jones, so I know about Guy.
No, I don't. No, I don't really think. I think he was a typical dad, like whoever I dated, he didn't really like, but that's just a typical dad. Um, I, he didn't talk about it. He was afraid of Arab terrorists back in the 60s and 70s. As I said to you, the old fashioned kind of Arab terrorists that hijacked planes and shot people, not that beheaded people and took down buildings. But he was really afraid that they would come after our family, and he didn't really talk about it. He didn't write a book. He had opportunities. He's in Asa Weitzman's book and some of the other books, but he never wrote one. But then in 1978, I don't know if he reached out to them or they reached out to him, but he and my mom went back to Israel, and he was honored by the Israeli Air Force. And I think Asa Weitzman was defense minister then. And my dad got a medal, and he got to fly in all the new fighter planes. And it was a really exciting thing for him. I'm so glad he got to do that. And then when my dad passed away, my mom she took the medal and made it into a necklace that she would wear. He was very proud of what he did, as he should be. I'm very proud of what he did.
Yeah.
I wish more people knew. That's why I like the movie.
It is a very, just from even a photographic or cinematographical, I don't know the right word, cinematography, just how they had enactments of, like, you felt like it was actual real footage.
Yeah.
Some of it, I think the black and white probably was real footage, and the color was, but it really made you almost feel like you were there as it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Which was, so what did you think of the movie? I can ask you the other question that I'm sure you don't want me to ask, but overall, what did you think of the movie?
I really like the movie because I think it really does set out, what they all did and who they were, and that it didn't matter if you were, like being Jewish doesn't necessarily have to be like you read the Torah every day and all these things. It's like you feel it. And my dad certainly felt it. And I think the movie really captured that for all those guys, because it seemed more of them than not were like not religious. yet they still wanted to go risk their lives and their citizenship. I swear my dad told me they were arrested for treason when they got back, but somehow it went away. My uncle was the DA in Westchester County. I'm sure that played a role.
Well, that's a good role. I mean, that's also the interesting concept, aside from feeling a
Okay, I think
calling,
you're
knowing,
frozen. Okay.
as I was going to say, is in addition to just feeling maybe a calling, knowing that you could lose your citizenship. And they said, I mean, there
Right.
was the one who did, and then he was eventually pardoned by Jimmy Carter, but just so much more at risk than, well, there can't be so much more risk than your life. That's kind of significant. But assuming that, you know, one
Right.
does survive, not even becoming, and we have conversations about that in our household. Back then, it was kind of this challenge of a loyalty, in terms of if it's a dual loyalty of how can you be American and Jewish? Where's your loyalty? Which I think from younger generations, I'll throw myself in that. I don't even understand that. It's like, I'm American, I have a religion, I can support, but you know, historically there has been that question of how can you be loyal if you're Jewish, which I think is just anti-Semitic probably in nature.
Totally. It's totally, they don't do that to any other religions. You know, they don't ask Catholics if they're loyal to Italy or the Vatican, you know, like we're Americans, but, and we happen to be Jewish, but I think, I don't know, I mean, I wasn't there, but it seems to me too that, like you said, the effect of the war and the Holocaust made them all want to act like they did have an opportunity to do something, to fight back. There's all this discrimination, and they were doing something about it. They were daredevils. They were all really brave, those guys. It's
Oh,
really kind of amazing.
and characters, they all sounded like they
Yeah.
were such
Well, they
characters.
stole those airplanes. My dad had like a fake passport, and they had all these cool things that we saw with his pictures, but it's all in Florida. I don't have it. It's at my parents' old house. But he had a lot of really cool stuff from it. And I think also he didn't talk about it because, you know, the whole thing about losing your citizenship and all.
Yeah, maybe that was part of the deal. It's like, we, you know,
Yeah.
you don't talk about it, we'll just do it never happened. Although
Right.
there's now a state of Israel, so something did happen.
Yeah, really, I think the United States should be proud. Well, you know, I think the United States should be proud that those Americans went over there and helped. I mean, it fit within all our values too, but anti-Semitism was very strong then. You know, you think about the Holocaust people who tried to get in here and weren't allowed in, you know, like it was intense. And I mean, we all know that it was intense in those days.
Yeah. Did when he came back, I mean, did you know if he ever stayed in touch with the people he had volunteered with?
I don't know. I don't think he did. But somehow I got back in touch with him in 78 because he went back finally. And, you know, so I
Was he
don't know if
was
other guys went or just him and my
I was gonna
mom.
ask that. Did, like, was it they reached out to the, you know, they're getting the
I
crew back,
don't think
band back
so.
together?
Yeah, I don't think so. From the pictures that I saw was just like him and my mom and like HOH or him with the plane and stuff like that. It wasn't groups of them. So I think it was just his trip. Maybe they did that with all the guys. I'm sorry, I don't know that.
We're at Federation, we're planning a trip to Israel in October 2022. So we'll have to like try and go
Nice.
and connect with maybe I'll have to be like, okay, maybe who should we connect with? We'll be like, um, do you think was his concern about, you know, like the Palestinians are coming to get me? Was that just based on kind of like having to live, never knowing if he was going to get shot, and it just, he felt it carried over here? Was that kind of the basis, do you think, of his concerns?
Well, I don't know if you think back to the late 60s, early 70s, there was a lot of Arab terrorist attacks, you know, 72, they attacked the Olympics. I mean, there was a lot of that going on. And I think back to what you said about my dad being a good father, I think he was worried about his kids and his family more than anything about himself. He was just worried that we would be at risk. That's how I always took it.
Did all your siblings have the same kind of, I don't know if outcome or impact on based on this, or did like your brother was in the movie, did he have a different relationship based on that? Or
I don't think so. I mean, he had a different relationship because he was a boy, and that's always different with your dad. But no, I think my brother has a really strong sense of justice too, and I, you know, I think that's more than a coincidence that our dad did this, and then we both kind of feel that way. None of us are very religious. After I went to Israel, I was 11 when my grandparents took me and my older brother and our two cousins who were kind of the same age as us. I wanted to go back and get confirmed. We weren't bat mitzvah, bar mitzvah. I mean, we didn't do Sunday school. My dad was like not religious. It's just so interesting because he was raised Orthodox. And I don't know. I think the war played a big role in that. But when I came back, I did want to go learn more about my religion, and I did.
And I find that to be, in our with Jewish Federation, we're not a religious organization, but we say we're here to culturally connect the Jews of Dutchess County and the greater community. So there is something about it that there's, I mean, religion is a part, but it's not necessarily the same level for everybody. Yet we are still all connected culturally.
Exactly.
And
That's
I
how
know,
I feel that way.
yeah, and we're not. We said we're not talking politics, but it's when discussing Israel about, regardless of certain policies people may or may not like, leadership they may or may not like, the state of Israel being there for us is something that
I agree.
So that's kind of always, people get very emotional now, so it's just kind of like, okay, let's separate the different things. But it's almost, I mean, they were talking about being a beshert. It was fate. There were so many reasons why it shouldn't have worked. It shouldn't have survived.
600,000 versus 50 million. Yeah, they shouldn't have survived.
No. And I think it's even funnier that I could have bought a plane for $5,000.
Right. A fighter plane.
Those are always good things. Yeah, you kind of wonder what happened to the other fighter planes, or don't I want to know? And also the fact that Czechoslovakia became the kind of the ally, that I never knew.
Yeah, that's really changed.
It's good to have. We never know necessarily where our allies are going to go to or from. I know that we always open up for questions. It seems like a very quiet group, which means either we're doing a really great job or they're just all enamored. So it's very exciting that normally, I say ask 5 Jews, you get 17 opinions. So if there was one lesson that, and I think I know the answer, but if there was one lesson that your father taught you that you wanted to teach your children and your children's children, what would that be?
I think it was to always stand up for yourself, and whether it's because you're Jewish or a woman or because you have a Black friend or whatever, to stand up for yourself. I mean, I remember my dad, we're all kind of little. My dad was, I think he lied and said he was 5'8", but I don't even think he was that tall. And I remember him once at a restaurant where we heard some people at the table next to us saying all this anti-Semitic stuff, and my dad just wouldn't have it. He went over and confronted him, and he picked up the guy. Like, he held him by his arms and the guy was like a foot taller than him, picked him up and moved him and stuff, just told him it was not okay to do that. And he was like that. And well, that's how I am. Like, I confront people all the time about discrimination and those, and I think probably my brother does too. We don't stand for injustice, and we stand up for ourselves. And I hope I've taught my kids that.
I love that. It'll be good to see, I was always curious to see what the next generation will do. Now I'm sounding old, aren't I?
Well, my older daughter went on a, what do you call the trips to go to Israel? Birthright trip to Israel a few years ago, and met her now fiance. It was an LGBT group. She met another woman, and now they're getting married.
Oh, Mazal tov.
I know. It was like a big success story for Birthright.
Well, yeah, that's one of the other projects we got to start working on, but not tonight. Oh, well, that's exciting. A wedding. Yay for weddings. So I think, though, we will have to have you back once you get some of the photos from the Florida.
All right. I should get them and send them because they're pretty amazing. And you'll laugh too about different woman on his arm, every picture, which totally fits. I forgot about all the other guys saying that too in the movie. That's pretty funny that But you know what? They were risking their life. They were young men with a lot of testosterone, as that one guy said, and they didn't know if they were going to live till the next day. Like, I totally get it.
Yeah. They were very international. It didn't matter if they were in Brazil or Rome.
Right.
They were, oh, and it's really strange when one guy's like, yeah, I decided to stay, with the woman and now I'm still alive. Like, it's, yeah,
Yeah, that was a scary story
yeah,
that he stayed with that woman or he would have been killed. Wow.
yeah, too amazing. And some of the interviewers of this was from another movie that we were thinking about showing eventually, My Brother's Keepers. So I thought it was interesting that there was a crossover. And we had done a previous movie called Waves of Freedom, which was talking about the American servicemen who helped break through the British barricades. So,
Mm.
we're hoping that these movies are helping educate, all of us for just a greater understanding and a realization of it's really a miracle that this small land in a desert has become the innovation nation, and more things being produced out of there, technology, et cetera, medical. But so excellent. We do thank you very, very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for inviting me.